It is 6:03 on the 25th of May. I'm calling the Finance Committee meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the meeting minutes from May 11th.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the meeting of May 11th.
Can you give me my?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. Any comments, changes, corrections? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Pete?
O'Malley, aye.
Tommy?
Richala, aye.
David?
Day, I abstain.
Tim?
Purcell, aye.
And Narwhal, aye, unanimously accepted. Okay. Second item on the agenda is the transfer request for the police department.
Nick, are you joining the Facebook call? It's on, or the Finance Committee meeting? It's on now.
Oh, shit.
Get on.
Yeah,
All right,
I'm up in the attic. I'm running downstairs now.
all right, Trainer, thank you. All right, bye-bye.
Yeah, right.
Karen, if you can do something for a minute, please do. He's running down from his attic. He's gonna join right now.
Okay. So Ron, the question that I have is the motions from Lauren, will you have them by Tuesday of next week?
That's how I'm hoping before then. So the motions are pretty much done. The one that the DPW change had to do with the water and sewer. That one, I gave her the information what I thought it should be. I'm waiting for her to adjust that. So the only other motions that she has to work on are the ones we talked about with regard to the school motions that we talked about. So I sent her an email about that today, and I think I copied you on the email. Asking. So I'm expecting them hopefully as soon as, well, I think we're waiting to see if any changes happen tonight, but I'd like to have those motions done by Thursday at the latest. So as soon as I get them, I'll send them out to you, okay?
Okay, so guys, we're gonna have a meeting next Tuesday.
Okay.
And then we'll go over any last minute oopses. And then we can discuss the motions at that point to make sure that our recommendations remain the same. Is that acceptable to everybody?
Sure.
Yep.
So just the motions we're talking about, just so you know, there's only a couple that we're talking about and waiting for cleanup. One is on the actual budget motion. That's one of them. The second one is on that schedule for non-union pays that is subject to the override. And the third one, I think, is on the school motion as to how we deal with that, how that motion is going to be on the floor of town meeting. I don't know if Karen, you want to get in more to that, but our thoughts on that.
Pay one, I don't know about that one. I don't remember discussing that one because that would be something that if the override passes, then that's included in the changes.
No, the one I'm talking about is the Massachusetts School District that we're going to approve everything except for the 300,000 that's going to be subject to the override. That discussion, Karen. So that motion, she hasn't drafted up what that's going to look like yet. So that's the other motion I'm looking for.
Okay,
Those are the three that I'm aware of, Karen. Then we may make an adjustment on the water sewer thing. Joe's might have to adjust, and frankly, I almost wish he was on tonight. The adjustment potential is because they can't keep the water department staffed,
yes,
that they might need to increase the water budget by 50 grand to potentially pay to have somebody run the department until we can get staff hired back. That's the only other change I know.
water and sewer, it's the school motion, and then what is the third change?
Remember the line with the town clerk and the stipends line, that's subject to the override, those stipends for certain planning board and all those, it's in that little chart.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that now. Yep, thank you.
So that chart, the school motion and the budget motion, the three I'm aware of. And then a potential change to the sewer line, the sewer thing, that's the ones that I'm aware of, and that's it. Everything else I think is clean at this point. So when I get that, which I hope is the next couple of days, I'll send it right away. Nick is calling me, hold on. Hey, Nick, why aren't you on?
Hey, I'm there. I just need somebody to let me in.
Oh, could you let Nick in, Karen? He's on the waiting list.
That's Pete, not me.
Pete's doing it. He's on it.
Oh,
Here it comes.
all right, we're good. Thanks,
Thank
chief.
you.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, so we have tonight 2 transfer requests from the police department. I'll read. Make the motion that the finance committee approve the transfer of $6,000 from 001 to 10,5122,000 police overtime wages. Present balance is 22,048.60 to 001-210-5400 police supplies. Present balance is negative $180.64. Additional funds are being transferred into this account to purchase equipment such as ammunition, tires, emergency equipment, and uniform parts in order to keep the department fully functional despite next year's expected budget reduction.
O'Malley, second.
Any discussion, any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
So is it truly a negative? I mean, is that just on paper or is that actually, I thought you couldn't have a negative balance in an account.
The information that we have here is that there is $180 shortfall in the account. Keith, do you want to answer that?
Yep, I think there was just a little oversight. We put something in the wrong account, got charged for supplies instead of purchase services, and we ended up with a negative of only $180.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any other discussion? Okay. Then we'll take a roll call vote.
O'Malley, aye.
Tommy,
Bouchard, aye.
Lucy, or I?
Purcell, aye.
Narwhal, aye, unanimous. Okay. The next one is transfer of $10,000 from 001-210-5120-000 police wages. Present balance in the above appropriation is $148,669.06 to 001-210-5400 police supplies. The account is 180.64 shortfall. And additional funds are being transferred into the account to purchase equipment such as ammunition, tires, emergency equipment, and uniform parts in order to keep the department fully functional despite next year's expected budget reduction.
O'Malley, what am I doing? Second.
Any discussion? Any questions? Any discussion?
Yeah, I got a quick question.
Go ahead.
I'm just assuming, Chief, that that account will get spent out by the end of the fiscal year.
Yes, that's the plan. I'm looking at roughly a $40,000 cut next year. So I'm going to stock up on some equipment, set, ammunition, tires, things that we're definitely going to need that I can purchase right now.
All right, we're not leaving out, you're not going to leave yourself short for this year, though.
No, we'll be okay.
Thank you.
For Tamika, Darren Ross has just joined the meeting. Okay. So, okay, any other questions? Any other discussion? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote.
O'Malley, aye.
Bouchard, aye.
Lucy, or I? Ross, I.
Purcell, aye.
And Narwhal, aye, unanimous. Okay, thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry I was a little late.
No
No
worries.
problem.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay. So guys, let's make this,
By the way, nice glasses.
I know, they broke today at the office. Don't tell Tim.
Been one of those days.
Don't tell him. Okay, so the Board of Selectmen has put a $300,000 override on the ballot to be held Monday, the 28th of June. So we have the ability to put back all $237,872.43 of cuts that we didn't put back already. Does anyone have any concerns with doing that?
Nope.
Any questions?
Will that eliminate the use of any free cash to balance the budget?
That is correct.
Super.
So the 283 is if that 300,000 passes.
Passes.
237, yes.
237.
If the $300,000 override passes, then we will be able to give everyone their stipends back, their raises, all of that.
What 300,000 minus 237 is 60 something?
Yeah.
What are we doing with that?
Just because we pass an override, if we don't need it, we don't have to tax on it. Which means they can,
You just don't take it.
you just don't take it.
That
No,
difference would
that-
stay in.
That would be free cash anyway. That difference would be free cash.
But if we did use it, it would just be in the, what do you call it, the levy limit. That would give us that much we could go up if we had to.
Okay. So, is there any other discussion, questions, concerns?
I had a discussion with Ron last week about if this was level services or level funded. And he let me know that it was level funded, and he didn't have the answer right there, but we talked for a few minutes about should we be going for a level services instead of level funded? And I think it would complicate the issue, but I'm not happy. And Ron and I agree. I think he will probably say the same thing. It should be level services, but I don't know if this one will pass. But I'm sure that if it was another couple $100,000 on top of this, it would certainly shoot a hole through it. So unfortunately, it's the lesser of two evils. But I would, sometime or another, we have to catch up with the people that have been non-contracted employees that over the last couple budget cycles have not gotten raises and things like that. Or we haven't improved things in town that we probably should be doing. So I just want to make my stance on that. I don't think that we want to go down that trail right now with 2 or 3 weeks to go, 2 weeks to go. But I just want everybody to know that it is level funded, and we are going to lose out on that. You know, what we're doing basically, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, is we keep going backwards for different services in town, non-contracted employees and things like that. And it's just, I think it's unfair. I don't want to spend I don't want to spend a lot of the taxpayers' money to do it, but unfortunately we keep going backwards. So that's my statement about this. And I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but we're never catching, those people are never catching up. Every time we turn around, those are the first ones we get, you know, and that's, I don't like that, but.
What did your discussion include at all that if we took that 60-something thousand dollars because we can and put it towards some of that, or not this year?
We could do some of that based on the lay of the land afterwards. And we didn't think that was, I'm paraphrasing here, Ron, jump in. We didn't think that was a bad idea. What we couldn't do was go to the town and say, not that number, it should be 450,000 because they had to place it on a election ballot at 300,000. So I think that we should remain open to the fact that with the new finance committee and everything after the town meeting, and we let our heads clear, that we may want to come back and visit some of these issues. That the American Funds Act are one-time things. Maybe we can help some of the people that have been set behind all these years with a step raise or an increase or something like that. That's my only thought. And I just would like to put it out there.
So if I could through you, Madam Chairman. So first of all, I had a great conversation with Darren. I think it was on a Wednesday, and the Board of Selectmen, in order to change the override number, had a deadline of that Friday to change the number. So the $300,000 override was already voted on the Board of Selectmen. So there would have been no way to increase that number to put in money for what they're describing as a level services budget. So it was impossible at that point. I want to re-clear this extra 60 grand or whatever you're talking about. So as I did the calculation, and Peter, I think you put together the Excel spreadsheet on the impact statement, right? So I just basically cut out of that and, all the departments that we put back, the services, the employees. And it looked like to me that the impact was still about $210,000 of expenses, which in the form I sent you guys was in the bottom left-hand corner. So expenses are around 210. As you remember, the balance to the $300,000 is simply the use of free cash that we have is that balance. So we wouldn't want to use that balance to pay for ongoing services because we'd be using free cash again for ongoing services. So whatever money, if the override was to pass, and in fact, we do have free cash left over, I would still recommend that be used for one-time purchases of capital equipment, like fixing the roofs or buildings or whatever. That would be the theory of that. So it's not leftover levy capacity. We would be using the full 300,000 levy capacity to pay for everything, but it would free up some amount, if that's 60 or 80 or whatever that free cash is, would be freed up for whatever one-time capital purchase or whatever we decide to do with it. So that's the way that plays out. I'm just, what I wanted you to check, Peter, because I think you were the one that did that Excel spreadsheet. I don't know if it was you or Karen that did that Excel spreadsheet for the impacts. All I did is cut out the staff, totaled up the numbers, and then with the cuts, and I found it, there were 210,000 left of cuts. And I did it quickly this morning, so please check it. But that, I know you're going to rework the impact statement for the.
I sent you corrections along with all the finance committee members. There were some corrections. There are not impact statements for all of the cuts. So therefore it's 237,872, 43 cents. So Tom, you had a question.
So you said earlier that this 237 puts back in the raises and the steps, et
Yep.
cetera.
Yep.
So this may be a level funded budget, but it does put those steps in. What we're missing in this budget is possibly like supply account survey, other things that would be anticipated to be done that may not get done.
No, that,
No, if the override passes, we're putting back every cut that we've had to make to get to the TA recommended request budget, which is a level funded budget, a level service.
and just to understand, the reason it's level funded is because before it even came to you, knowing there was a deficit, I already cut their budget from what would be described as a level services budget to a level funded budget. I made those cuts before it even came to you because we knew we had the deficit. So the only level services budget might have been what the department heads sent to me in the first place.
So do you,
So,
yeah,
but the raises and the steps are going back in
if the override passes, yes.
if the override passes.
Correct.
Mhm.
The stipends will go back in.
And we're eliminating free cash
We won't eliminate the need to use free cash, yes.
and the use of free cash.
If it passes, we're not using free cash.
Right, so we're not eliminating, we're not using it.
Eliminating the use of it.
I understand, I just want to make sure everybody else understands the word is the right word.
But I guess my point was that before Ron sent us a budget, he had already trimmed some of these budgets.
Correct.
So that's why if there's things in here that we can get back, we haven't progressed. We've stayed the same with a level funded budget.
Yeah.
And that's where I know we've been fiscally responsible, but it's not, when this 237, whatever Karen said, number comes back, we're gonna be where we're supposed to be. But there were cuts before that.
Right.
that we got.
I understand what you're saying, but my point was that at least we're getting the people, the positions back
Yes.
in,
Right.
and we're getting at least somewhat fair amount of raises and steps that we can get in there. And so that's my point also. So at least we're getting that done. Yes, we need to go back at some point and look at those other things that we would like to see in there, or the things that were cut originally and that would add to the budgets to help us progress. But that's, right now, we've made, as far as I'm concerned, made a pretty good step forward to get back to there if we can. If we were rather.
I'm going to agree with Darren on the whole idea of level funded versus level service. And that we don't have level service. We've just accommodated to make sure that we're fiscally responsible. But I think we also, at some point in time, we need to be able to address how do we get to the point where we take a practical approach to funding the services that the town wants. And we're in a situation where we're reacting to whatever the schools ask for, and the rest then is what's available for the services. And it would be good if we could address the services are these, and then how do we go ahead and ensure that we fund those? And whether or not the school gets everything that it's looking for the first time through, or if there's some limit. And I know that Ron's comment was that it's very tough to change the agreement, and I totally understand that. But it's been backfill a problem on the backs of the municipal budgets. That's where it is today. So,
We've been doing that for a number of years now. You're right, absolutely correct. There's no
Right.
doubt about that.
but
But we got to do something. We got to somehow get to the point where we can slow the school down with their increases and make it a reasonable amount.
Right.
So then we could do some of that.
right,
Because otherwise you're going to have an override every year to fund the municipal side of the budget.
well, and I think
And when
I'm
you do that override, then the school comes back next year with even more money.
right, because now they know that the levy is
They know
there.
This fund's there, so they come back for even more.
So we gotta get to a point, as a town, to be able to establish what we think is an appropriate way to be able to fund the services and get the services that the town wants. Maybe the town doesn't want half of the services that we're putting forward. I don't know. I'm not gonna say that.
So if I
But
could,
I would feel better if we could say that the town has the town charter, or the town has a list of services that we are delivering, or the town is delivering to the folks in town, and those cost this, and this is how it's going to be funded. We're
So-
just not there yet.
so
This is a
Pete-
very great philosophical question
It
that
sure
will
is.
require a lot more than just the town of Rutland to make the changes.
Correct.
This would be a Massachusetts discussion.
Right.
So
State level
I would
too.
much prefer if we could have this conversation after the town meeting,
Right.
so we can
Yes.
focus on what's going on now. I'm all for having the conversation, but I'd really like to get through this town meeting budget prep right now and get it all done.
Okay.
I second that.
Yeah, now, Karen, if it's okay, because I think there is something important that we all have to understand before town meeting. And Pete, it goes to your comments about the schools. So you remember when we started off discussing schools, the increase was like 961,000. Then, under a lot of pressure by a lot of people, including the managers of all the towns, they lowered to like 639,000. Now the number after the recent cut is $400 and something thousand, which is about a 3.36 or 3.37% increase, which is the lowest increase they've had in probably 7 or 8 years, which is pretty amazing. So we put a lot of pressure on them, and to the credit of a lot of people, the numbers came down. Now, they're going to be waving at town meeting a look at, this is the lowest percentage increase we've had in 7 years, blah, blah, blah. And that, I think that you still want to, at least my recommendation is that we still vote against, and I know Karen feels the same way, we still vote to recommend against the town budget. And I'll tell you, I want you to understand
School budget.
not only the percentage increase, but another bigger problem. We have been talking a lot about what happens when you use one-time revenue to fill ongoing expenses.
Well, hold on a second, Ron, because the conversation that we had that, last Friday with Lauren was if we write that motion, the way that she's gonna write that motion, it is acceptable for us to say the finance committee recommend favorably, because the only way we're gonna say the town vote favorably on the school budget is if you do the override. If you vote down the override, then it's a no vote for the school, and that's what Lauren said.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Karen. But and the point I'm trying to make here is this, and so we're going to be supporting the school budget. The $300,000 only is an override provision, right? If the override passes. But the problem that I have with this damn school budget is, even though it's the lowest percentage we've had in, say, 7 years, is that a lot of the things they're talking about doing is using one-time revenues, grant money and things to balance their budget. So if they use one-time revenues to balance their budget, that means next year they're going to have a big hole in their budget that we're going to be addressing, right? And they're going to be pushing it back onto us. So, that's got to be talked about at town meeting, that, they should have a plan of real cuts, not just using one-time revenues to balance their budget, because it's just going to kick us in the ass in the future. And that's the concern I have about what I've heard about how they've lowered the budget to where it is by using these kind of one-time shots. And that, we don't want that. We don't want to have the schools be in the same position where now they got to come back and ask us for 900 grand again because they used one-time revenue to make up their numbers. My last comment is,
900.
yeah, whatever. My last comment is this:
Well, we're
the state voted to cut their budget, the school budget, by over 700. Well, originally by 700 grand. I have to look and see where that number is at now. It's still, they didn't give them any increase at all. They actually cut their budget. Why? If the state's cutting their budget because student population or whatever is going down, why does the town have to increase their budget by 3.3% if the state won't even support giving them any increase at all? Right? That's another question that should be discussed or looked at town meeting. And that's it, Karen. I don't want to think, people need to understand this mentality.
We do not want a philosophical question on the floor of the town meeting.
I just want to make sure that we understood them when we get to town meeting, because those are reasons for our arguments, if there's an argument.
Okay,
So could we move towards putting 237,000 back in? Do
Already
we
did.
know where it is? So
Yep.
we're all set.
it's all back. It's all back. Everything that we cut is all back. So the only other thing I need to get from the committee this evening is a format that everyone will be happy with to go on the floor. And here's a suggestion that I have received from several different individuals, mainly the town attorney and the town accountant. So we're gonna do a column for the TA requested budget.
Are we gonna vote on that 237? Are we're in agreement to put it back in?
Yeah,
What you
we voted.
said?
Okay, so, do we want to make a motion that we're gonna put back the 237?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote.
O'Malley, aye.
Rashala, aye.
Lucy, or I?
Ross, I.
Narwhal, I. Ted has stepped away for a moment. Okay.
It's
Unanimous.
subject to the override pass.
Okay,
Correct.
yes.
Language, right.
Okay. Okay, so now the recommendation is the TA requested budget. The FinCom recommends with the cuts, so we'll show the cuts in a column and then a total. And then the difference, and then if the override passes, what the column will be. Is that acceptable to everybody?
So it's all gonna be like a spreadsheet?
Yeah, it is. It's gonna be a spreadsheet.
Okay.
As long as it's easy to see everything going right across, that's the main way to do it, the
Yep.
best way to do it. 'Cause
So-
we gotta look at
That
it
was
quick.
the recommendation of the town accountant and the town attorney, and
Sounds
I thought it made sense, but I
Yeah.
want to make sure, I didn't want to say yes until I spoke with you guys.
No, I
So
think that's good.
the TA budget is what we received.
Mhm.
Then the cuts that we made,
Mhm.
then would show the column said, after the cuts we made, this was the amount.
Yep.
And then we show another column that said, if the override passes, then this will be, I'm fine with that.
All right, fantastic, then we'll get that squared away.
Karen, will you make sure it looks right before we see it at the town meeting?
I'll be doing it and checking,
No, but I
numbers.
mean, are you the one that's doing it? Or
I
is
am the
someone-
one that's doing it,
Okay,
and then, I'm gonna double check it, I'll send it out to all of you guys, And then Dan will look at it to double check it.
Are we doing handouts or overheads?
No overheads, we're doing handouts for the
Got it.
county.
Okay,
Yeah,
So
but I'll
Karen,
make sure- Yeah,
I talked to Dan, Karen, and Dan is expecting after tonight for you to let him know, and he's gonna work with you to make all the adjustments tomorrow. And he said if you do it tonight or early tomorrow, he'll try to get me the final budget by late afternoon tomorrow. That's what he told me.
I'm not making any promises that he's gonna get it this evening. He'll probably get it tomorrow evening because it's 6:30 and, yeah, no. He'll get it tomorrow evening is how it will be,
Well,
sorry.
let's figure on a Thursday delivery date is what we'll say then,
Yeah.
hopefully.
I'm not over promising and under.
I get it.
You want a motion on that format?
No, I don't need a motion. As long as you guys are accepting of that, then that's fine. Okay, is there any other business to come forward tonight? We will have another meeting on Tuesday, just to go over those motions. It
Guys,
should be-
I just want to thank everybody. This has been a turbulent year to say the least. And we've all worked pretty well in trying to put all this together and it's been crazy and a lot of kind of last minute things have been thrown in our faces. So I just wanted to tell you guys how much I appreciate all the work you guys did and the cooperation and working together to get this stuff done. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
well, and I would second that to say that the administrator and the town departments did a hell of a job,
Everybody worked hard at it.
Yep.
No question about it.
without question.
Okay.
Riley's making the motion to adjourn. I can hear him in the background. so-
Yes.
I make the motion to adjourn.
Second, O'Malley second.
Okay, any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
O'Malley, aye?
Rochelle, aye.
Lucier, aye.
Ross, aye.
Purcell, aye.
Narwhal, aye. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.